Welcome to this chapter of the St. Andrew Society of Detroit's Oral History Project. This project was the undertaking of the Charles S. Lowe Memorial Library Committee to capture members' recollections of the society. Recorded in January of 2018, these are the memories of John Thomson, current member of the Investment Committee and former Society trustee.
Well, I've never known a world without Scotland being part of it. My parents came from Scotland, and they came from the Outer Hebrides, and everything in the house and all the visitors to the house were Scottish, and most of them were Gaelic speaking.
Your parents around the house, did they play Scottish music? Did they speak a little Gaelic?
Well, they spoke Gaelic all the time. They would speak Gaelic among themselves and with my aunt and the cousins, and then they would turn to me and speak English.
Now, were your parents, were they members of the St. Andrew Society?
No, they were members of the Lewis Society, and the Lewis Society was the Gaelic-speaking society in Detroit.
Obviously, as a young man, you kept the interest in Scottish culture. When did you become a member?
Oh, probably around 24 years ago.
And at first you were located as an organization in the old St. Andrews Hall, downtown Detroit.
When I joined, we were still down in Detroit, the old St. Andrews, and shortly after I became a member is when the hall was sold, and then we started to wander around the city at different locations.
Tell me a little bit about the old St. Andrews Hall in Detroit.
I remember having to walk up the front steps, and then you would go on one level, and there were multiple levels, and they had the big hall, and they had a meeting room when you went up the steps to the right. That's most of it.
So then there was a few years that the society did not have a home. Where did you folks meet? What did you do?
We were kind of vagabonds, and we would meet in different locations, and then as time evolved, more and more of the meetings were held at the Commonwealth Club, and then pretty much all of the meetings became held at the Commonwealth Club.
Can you remember some of the names of the other places that you met at?
We would have functions in restaurants, I remember that. I don't remember all the names of them. I can remember when I was initiated, the restaurant was in the Renaissance Center.
So then you were fortunate enough as a society to receive the benevolence of the gift here of the Kilgore Center. Tell me how that happened.
It came as a surprise. It was several years before the gift was actually received. There was a telephone call, and I believe Ian Hunter was the one that spoke. And the caller was an attorney and wanted more information regarding the St. Andrew Society because there was a client of his that was thinking about making a gift to the society. We just kind of brushed it off, thinking, who's going to leave anything to the society, especially somebody that wasn't a member? So I think we were surprised when we got word that the society had been named as the beneficiary, and we were even more surprised when we heard about the dollar amount.
Once you realized all that, as a organization, you and the fellow people that you worked with, what did you then do? Start looking for a home? How did that happen?
Well, it was one of those things. It was good news, bad news, because all of a sudden we're getting all this money, and then that was the good news. The bad news was we're getting all this money, and everybody was going to wondering what we were going to do with it, and we didn't know what we were going to do with it other than there was a provision in the will that said it was to be used to construct a hall, and so that was our direction.
To construct a hall, did you first think about building a building, and what did you run up against?
Well, we thought that's what the will said to do, in effect, construct a hall. But if we spent all the money to construct or build the hall, then we wouldn't have enough money to operate the hall. So we were kind of in an uncertain state as to what to do. We gave a lot of thought, and we got the gift, and we then had, well, that was the nice part, but then we had to make decisions regarding the investment of the money until we were able to acquire the hall. And then it was just by chance that we ended up being on Rochester Road. One of the people on the trustees was driving by, and he saw this old restaurant for sale. And so we came and took a look at it, and it really had been left empty for 2 or 3 years and had been owned by a lady in California who had rented it to a restaurant that went belly up. And so it had sat empty for 2 or 3 years and really needed a lot of work.
In what way?
Empty buildings aren't the most attractive places, and the hall was built for a restaurant, and so we had to make a decision, could we remodel it, how much it was going to cost to remodel it, and then is this really what we wanted? Is the right location? Because they had been looking, I think, for almost 2 years to find the right location.
Tell me about some of the other locations you might have looked at.
The one that I remember was way over in Wixom. And it was an old Union Hall across from where the old Ford plant used to be. And it was a nice building, but it was geographically not the best for the society. But then this building here, it also was the question, was geographically the best spot for the society, trying to look at the entire metropolitan area. You know, the West Siders wanted something on the west side, East Siders wanted something on the east side, and where was our membership? Now, the games had shifted over to Livonia, and so we were getting more members from that area, from the Livonia, Northville, Plymouth area, and so maybe we should have gone a little further west. But we looked at the location of Rochester Road, 16 Mile Road, and I-75. It was almost as centrally located as you could get, and we looked at the building and we said, yeah, we can do something with it. And so then the decision was made, all right, we're going to go for it. But then we had the problem with the will, because the will said that it was to build a building and the funds were to be used for that purpose. So we ended up going to the probate court and having to get approval from the judge for us to use the money to purchase a building and then to use portion of it to remodel the building and then to use another portion to have a reserve to maintain the hall. So we actually had to go to probate court and get those approvals, and then the purchase agreement was subject to the court approval. So we got it and we completed the purchase and we're here.
Throughout the process, once you received the building and you started the remodeling, just kind of in some general steps, what were the major things that had to be done?
The major things that had to be done, we had to put in all new lighting. We moved the location of the bar. The building was really choppy, so we had to remove walls. We had to remodel the kitchen to meet our standards. And then we had to completely paint and maintain the inside of the hall, and then we had to do on the exterior of the hall. Except for the main hall and the conference room, pretty much everything is new.
In the process of the remodeling, we're sitting here in the library doing this interview. Did you and the other individuals that you worked with on the building, in thinking of this, did you have in mind that this might be a great separate area for maybe a future library someday?
That was part of it, yes. We thought that it was a good idea. And then the room adjoining it was intended as a classroom, so we thought we'd have a separate classroom. And we thought that the location of what's now the conference room was suitable and to have the purpose that it was. And we wanted a big hall, and so we knocked down some walls over there, and then we put in some doors between the big hall and the small hall. So there was extensive rehab of the building.
How many fireplaces are in the building?
I think there are 4 of them.
Were they all here when you took over the building?
All the fireplaces were there.
It adds a lot of nice ambiance, doesn't it?
That was one of the things in our imagination, was what it would look like once we were able to get it in a livable standard. Was these fireplaces that created a mood, and the beam ceilings also did it. So the layout turned out to be very nice, and then the ambience is really, I think, better than most of us imagined it to be.
How long did it take for you to do the complete remodel from vision to completion?
Including the court action?
Okay.
I would say almost 2 years.
Were you here for the first meeting of the St. Andrews Society of Detroit here at the new building?
I was.
Tell me about that.
I think it was a lot of people had not been in the hall before, and I think the most interesting thing was to sit back and just look at them, and as they wandered around and were trying to think, wow, this is something.
Who were some of the other people that you worked with in making this reality?
Oh my goodness, when I'm on the spot and I have to think of names, that's when I forget them. There was Ian Hunter, Rod Harris, George, and there was Andrew. I'm forgetting them.
Let me ask it this way then. Was it all just executive board members and trustee members that were part of the decision-making process?
Yes, but it required the approval of the society also to give the final approval to it.
Thinking about future plans for the Kilgore Center, what's sort of kicking in the back of your minds? A new dishwasher, something exciting like that?
You know, there's always something that goes wrong. The society now has a separate fund, part of the inheritance that we received. It's enabled us to maintain the hall in the good condition that it's in. You can think of things like the roof. To get the roof repaired, we had big problems with the leaking roofs before. May need new heating and air conditioning units up there. So there's the mundane type things that you have to deal with. And then there's just something like the library, putting in the shelves and seeing it all develop over the years and how it's matured and all the little pieces that have come together.
Tell me about those front doors everybody walks through. I understand they're special.
They are special. They're the original doors from the St. Andrews Hall over on downtown on Larned. The stained glass window also is originally from the hall.
How did you come about getting those?
The hall had been sold, and I'm surprised that we were able to get them because it was a land contract and it got a little touchy between us as the vendors and the purchaser. But when we did get the building here, it was agreed that we would get the stained glass and the doors.
And that was all part of the original St. Andrews Hall in Detroit.
That was all part of the St. Andrews Hall in Detroit.
Now, we're sitting here in the library doing this conversation. Do you know of other things that were in the original St. Andrews Hall that are now here?
There's the chair when you walk in the door, the president's chair. That was from the original hall also.
The president's chair. That's not used anymore.
It's not used anymore. It's just to look at.
In the process of obtaining this building, doing the refurbishing, what's one unique story? Maybe something horrible that happened that went wrong, or something that was funny that happened?
We had to go to court a second time over who was going to pay the taxes. And when I think of the hall, I think of the two court sessions that we had to go through. One, a negative session where we didn't want to pay taxes that we didn't have to pay because we are a charitable organization and the charities typically don't pay taxes. But the way the will was constructed, it ended up we did have to pay the taxes for the other beneficiaries. That's the negative. I think the thing that I remember most is probably the dedication of the hall and the excitement that we've now got it completed.
Is it rather special that the St. Andrews Society of Detroit has a hall like this? Obviously, there's not as many benevolent groups as there used to be in the 50s and the 60s, but not all groups have a place like this, do they?
There's very few that have a place, and there's even fewer that have a place that's in as good a condition as what we have. Of the Scottish organizations in the United States, there's us and the organization in Chicago that have their own halls. As far as we're able to determine, there's two of us, Chicago and Detroit. The other Scottish societies don't have halls. And you talk about other ethnic groups, they're closing their doors rather than opening. So I think we're really fortunate to have it, and sometimes we start taking it for granted. And we really have to step back sometimes and just say, wow, we've got something that most organizations don't have.
Would you say that having a home like this, the Kilgore Center, would you say that it is something that has helped the society grow or maintain membership, being as special as it is?
I think it's made a significant difference. The attendance at the monthly meetings is greater. There certainly are more activities. There are more groups that meet here. I think it's brought a lot of things together. It's like when we were trying to bring everything back to the Kilgore Center that they had. everything had been dispersed or with members in their garages or in their houses, and we lost certain things that we still haven't recovered simply because nobody knew really where they were. So it's enabled us to bring our meetings to one location. It's all our memories to one location. We have the library, whether we wouldn't have. We have a place that we can have meetings whenever we want. We permit the Highland dancers to practice. We permit the bands to practice. We've had the national and international Scottish organizations meet here. It's just become a center that, had we not had the hall, it would have been a different world. The society would be doing different things.
Tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, working with the different benevolences here on behalf of the Kilgore Center and St. Andrew's Society of Detroit.
Oh my goodness. There's lots and lots of them. I think some are Scottish oriented. I think the most significant one that I think the society has is the scholarship program, whereby they enable students to, during the summer, attend camps or schools where they're taught Scottish heritage, piping, drumming, dancing, singing, fiddling. And sometimes we've had close to 40 students sponsored by the society. And this, I think, wouldn't have been possible without this inheritance also. So it's done more than just help the St. Andrews Society. It's helped the greater metropolitan area, and it's helped the Scottish community retain some of their roots.
Tell me about meetings here from your perspective, a typical meeting.
You're talking about our monthly meeting, huh?
Yeah, is it fun? Is it a drag?
It's some of both. I mean, some people are long-winded. Sometimes there's interesting speakers brought or an interesting program. I like it when they bring the people that have attended the schools where they bring in the entertainment. I think that's really a neat meeting. We have to have the monthly meetings to conduct business. Sometimes business meetings drag on. But the nicest part is just to be able to come every month and see people you know and say hello and have a meal and to chat.
You're obviously very involved with the organization. That benefits the society. But how does it benefit you as an individual?
I don't think anybody that knows me very well, it doesn't take them long to realize that I'm Scottish. And like I said at the beginning of the program, my parents came from the islands, and their social life revolved around other Scottish people, especially the Gaelic-speaking people. And they were very proud of their heritage, and they instilled it in my sisters and my brother and I and the rest of the cousins here. It became important for us all. While we didn't learn the Gaelic language, we did learn about Scottish heritage, and we kept in contact with the people back in Scotland. And having the society have a place to gather, I think, was just part of that. It's kind of an extension of the family and an ability to keep up with what's going on in Scotland and in the Scottish community here in the U.S. Because I have a couple of sons and I have some nieces and nephews, and I think there's something to be said for knowing your history and for sharing your history and getting together with people from similar backgrounds. It gives you an identity. It gives you a sense of belonging. It keeps you in contact with your heritage. And I think as you get a little bit older, you appreciate it a little bit more. When you're in your 20s and in your 30s, you're busy, you have a lot to do, lots of things to occupy you, and going to a meeting on a first Monday of the month doesn't sound very attractive, but sometimes you have to do those type of things to really gain something more important.
Can I ask you one more thing about involvement, especially for younger adults? The games. Setting up the games is a lot of work. Strong-backed young people would be of great help. What could you offer as far as getting them interested in helping to set up the games?
I would say the camaraderie, the crowds that you would see come through the gates, and if you were setting up the games and you came on a Friday night to the Ceilidh, or you came on Saturday and you saw all the hustle and bustle, I think that would be part of your reward for setting up the games.
This presentation of the St. Andrew's Society of Detroit's Oral History Project was produced by Van Rohr for the St. Andrew's Society of Detroit's Library Committee under the direction of Dennis Clements. current chairperson, and Shelby Brown Rohr, current St. Andrews Society of Detroit's communication director. This project celebrates the 169th year of the St. Andrews Society of Detroit. Salante.